Hi there, my name's Matt Cupal. I'm an engineer and a rock climber, and I've been climbing for 35 plus years, and for the last few of those years I've been developing this product that I called FlashBoard. It's a force gauge targeted at rock climbers to help us gain finger strength and other types of strength without having to have extra weights. So I call it weight-free strength training. I wanted to put this to a test, so I've recruited a couple more people. So Mercedes Pollmeier, who's a strength and conditioning coach, and Dylan Schuenemann, who works with me on this project. And we're actually going through Emil Abrahamsson's no-hang protocol for the next 30 days and trying it out with the FlashBoard, adapting his protocol to the FlashBoard. So it's kind of a cool adventure. We wanted to get some expert advice on this, so we called Emil and captured a conversation with him. And so next in this video, you're going to see our discussion with Emil first and talking through how he suggests we adapt his protocol to the FlashBoard. And then we're going to have a discussion between myself and Dylan and Mercedes to talk about how exactly each of us are going to execute Emil's no-hang protocol. So watch on to get some insights and tips on how we're actually executing that. And then for the next 30 days, we'll go through and show you our actual routines in YouTube Shorts. So it should be kind of a fun adventure. We're doing a peak force test for 5 different grip types before, and then a peak force test for 5 different grip types afterwards, and see what kind of improvements we're going to get. All right, watch on for our discussions with first Emil and then with Mercedes and Dylan.
For me, if I do this protocol, all I noticed is that when I actually climb, I don't feel anything in my fingers in terms of, nagging pains or any form of. I guess I feel more solid in my fingers. Is how I describe it. So it's easier for me to push harder on climbing sessions, and I think that's a good thing to do to see the actual strength adaptations that are more long term. So I tried to keep everything the same. Like the sessions were approximately as long, my regular climbing sessions, I mean, and the only thing is I would push myself harder when climbing because I physically felt that I could, because my fingers felt stronger. And because I mean, I noticed my finger strength increasing after around a week already.
Okay.
In the sense that when I was climbing, I just felt stronger and more like recovered in my fingers, and that they were always kind of active and recruited.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, really awesome. But then that was kind of the only thing that differed during the time that I did all of this testing, is that my climbing sessions, they were kept as long, but I would assume the intensity was higher just because I could. Like the relative intensity was probably the same, but the absolute intensity was higher because I could pull harder than I usually could. I've recently started doing isometrics for gym workouts instead of doing, like actual powerlifting exercises, and I'm noticing short term quite interesting results of just being very recruited in, like, I'm doing isometric bicep curls and a bunch of other exercises. So I will use it for that as well, which will be very exciting to see. And because my problem with it right now is specifically this, that I don't have any numbers to measure with. I'm just going all out and kind of letting that be the ruler.
So you do 6-week cycles of this? Is that what you said?
Roughly, give or take, but yes.
Okay. In your weeks off, do you do any other finger strength, like hangboarding?
Well, I should say that in different periods of time since I started doing this, I do fingerboard training whilst doing this. So on climbing days, for instance, or like what I usually do is some sort of finger workout plus a little bit of lighter climbing after that. But that's more of a side experiment. I would say that this is something that I could continuously do all year round, and I wouldn't. I don't think that would hurt in anything like that in any way. I think it would just be good for me, and I probably will start doing that more than I have. Like the only reason I have stopped is to try and experiment more, and since it's been literally the same response for 2 years, I don't really see a reason to stop anymore. Aside from maybe just resting the nervous system overall, that it can be good at times, but I don't think I would do it like 6 weeks on that type of periodization. It would more be like if I felt that I needed to rest from climbing or that any type of climbing related exercise for a while, then maybe I would stop. But
okay.
So yes, I have
Mm-hmm.
added a few both during and after doing this exercise, like in the off weeks and on the on weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably quite safe for most people to do, as long as they're not going to failure with with both of these exercises.
Yeah. I think that's what I notice the most, because I have some clients that I get them to do the no hangs, and if I'm not there with them, man, they just like hang way too much. And I'm like,
Okay.
And like short term, it feels really good, and then after like 4 weeks, they're like, oh, my fingers feel a little tweaky. I'm like, okay, probably because it's really hard to gauge, and that's why I kind of like this the force gauge, because you can really just put a number, like this is it,
Yeah.
And you can see from a distance if they're hitting that number or not. So
yeah, exactly.
That's true. Very true. I think that's a great approach. I tried to, in my most recent video about this, I gave the description as a light stretch for the forearms, which I do think is lighter than it needs to be. But it's just, if you're only feeling a light stretch, I don't see anybody ever getting injured from that. So it's the safer side of it all. But I think if you could find a good metric, I'd say that's 40%. I don't know. I'm sure that would be, the climbing world would be grateful for it.
Yeah, like I reference a lot of like the flexibility research where, like tendons adapt to light stretch, and that's kind of like this is like very much the same approach. So yeah, I'm curious to see what 40% feels like, and I would like to even try even less if I can feel a stretch. So
yeah, I mean, because when I do say 40%, it is a little bit, it's a very rough estimate of what to load it with.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of work to be made to make it a better number, but I think that's a good starting point.
Have you tried doing reps instead of 10 seconds, where instead you just do 1 second pulls and you do 10 of those? Have you tried anything like that?
Yeah, for a short duration. I think it's, maybe if you actually measure it well, it's good, but it was hard to find a good level of intensity, I'd say, for me. But it all circles back to not actually having a proper tool to measure with when you're at submaximal load or like below body weight. Because I mean, when I load like that, it's like, oh, this is easy, and then suddenly it's not quite as easy. But is it too hard? Is it, you see what I mean? Like, it's hard to gauge just where you're at, kind of, when you're doing those frequent loads. Because and I did it because in the Keith Barr study, they were doing, I think it's 1.5 seconds off on repeats or something like that, maybe 1 second on, 1 second off. So very, very frequent loads of the tendons, and it's hard to mimic in real life. But I did try, and it was a bit too difficult to, as mentioned, just understand the right level of intensity.
I've pulled on force gauges a lot at this point in my life, and it is like it's one thing to hit it to a certain level and hold there. It's definitely hard to find that right spot. So you definitely you first hit it and you oscillate, down towards that steady state. But the first load is always too high or too low. It's tricky.
Yeah. So I think if I were to do that, if you were to do that, you would have to go way below what you might want to, just because otherwise you'd be in a kind of an unsafe zone.
Like, have you done, within a 6 or 8 week period, tested your max and then adjusted the percentage based on your max? Or not really?
Not really, because I haven't done it based on a max.
Okay.
So the starting point for that number was like, those are my rough estimates for what I've loaded it with, but it's a give or take 10%. Like, it's between 30 and 50 probably. And so say that I had a 10% increase in strength, well, then it's still between 30 and 50% kind of, give or take.
It might be interesting to do, if we're doing a 4-week cycle, to do it, test at the end of every week and see if it increases and change based on that. I think that would give people something to look for, like, oh, here he's a week in and he's gained this much strength, or she has. People would probably help capture their interest, I guess.
Yeah, I was like curious to ask you, because you said you had an injury as well, like how far along you are on the injury and like what you were kind of thinking in terms of your protocol and like how to arrange that, the goal, the end goal for the protocol, and like what kind of results to show and how to go about the process?
Yeah. So I had medial nerve entrapment, basically like the muscle that helps you rotate this way, the pronator, just kind of like clamped down on the nerve super hard too many times. And I ended up hurting my nerve. And nerves take forever to heal. So it's been 9 months. And I feel no pain now. Like I climbed yesterday and it's like a 0.5, like I can feel it, but it's not really what I would call painful, but it's still there as I'm climbing. So like my goal for the next, like, I would say like 2 months is just like progressively increase my volume. And get, because like once like my hand size, like once the hold size gets smaller, I can feel it more because again, it's like that pronator position. So I have to be really careful how I'm like holding on to the handholds. And that's why I think this protocol would actually be really good, because it is kind of like forcing me into that hand position, but it's not the forearm position, unfortunately. You know, I'd have to train it like this in order for it to be specific to the injury, which, you know, that could be part of this. Did he say anything more about like that he did 70% and why he's kind of like switching to 40?
There was like a kind of like a confusion on the basis of what the 70% was. So we talked a bit about whether it was 70% of body weight or his peak force. So that was kind of like the basis and where we were trying to like,
Yeah, that's
what
right.
are we measuring from? So I think it was 70% from body weight, and when we were discussing, we wanted to get more of long as like, since we had this peak force assessment, we can go along with like 40% of the peak force, which is
Right.
maybe more standardized, but hard to tell because
And the peak force thing is a little bit hard to, if you're injured and you're starting into this injured, you don't want to necessarily go do a peak force pull to find out what your 1 rep max is.
Yeah.
So
You can. It would be basically peak force with no pain. That's where I would see your number starting at. And then you could do whatever percentage you want from that peak force.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you evaluate like a certain rate of recovery off of that, because like you're obviously going to get stronger or be able to pull harder as you recover more.
Yeah.
So there's that factor as well.
Dylan, what is your injury?
I just have a standard pulley strain.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm probably like a month out, and I'm probably like maybe like 60% healed, maybe more.
Okay.
It's like pretty good. Like I get like soreness after sessions. I try not to really crimp at all. I can pre-drag pretty much most things. Just like half crimp or full crimp positions are just like off limits basically.
So is it A2 Pelly or which one?
Yeah, it's A2. A2 in my ring finger.
Okay.
Pretty mild,
Not
but it's not horrible. It's still there though.
So, you know, I think it would be really interesting for you, Dylan, because like the PTs that I connected Matt with, they use a force gauge to measure pain. So like how much force can you pull before you hit pain? So that could be your peak force that you measure maybe once a week, you know, just to see like the progress. And that way you're not, there's no danger of you hurting yourself. It's just like, where am I at right now?
Yeah.
So that could be something like an addition that you could do.
I like that. Yeah.
It would be interesting. I think my plan was to do the protocol twice a day. I'm a little more, I think I'm pretty healthy. Yeah, I'm old, so I'm never fully healthy. That's the truth. But I'm pretty healthy. And so I wanted to go retest every week and maybe adjust the pulls for that week based on that.
Okay.
And just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
I actually did this protocol in February, so 3 months ago. And during that February cycle, I went from kind of 271 pounds peak force to 330 pounds peak force over 30 days. So that was a pretty good gain for me. It's about 60 pounds. And I'm then when I retested last night, I haven't trained as much because I've been kind of busy, and it was down to like 318 pounds is what I got out of that peak force last 2 days ago. So I'm kind of curious if that process repeats itself. I mean, there's only a limited amount of times you can get stronger, I suspect.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see if I have any gains or not.
I'm gonna try to duplicate exactly what Emil did in his video, but change the percentage. And like I'll test every week, but I won't change the number, like the percentage each week.
That's
you know, I'll just keep the same number for the 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have a 30-day. I'll change the number in the middle of each week and do it twice a day. You're gonna keep a constant number, but then test every week. And Dylan, what are your thoughts?
I can do the same kind of flat number across the whole month. I think that'd be good for me, for recovery wise. And I would like to do all the different grip types as well. Would we be doing a peak force assessment for every grip type at the end of the week, or just the standard like 4-finger track?
I think what I want to do is do 40% of every position, but I'm just going to test one position every week and then retest everything again at the end.
Okay.
Since I'm not changing the number, it's more just like curiosity, like what's happening each week.
Yeah, it is probably the right plan to do a peak test across all 5 grips.
Yeah.
So the plan is to do 5 grip types. We're doing 1 or 2 a day sessions. The pull duration, it's 2 hangs per grip, 2 pulls per grip because we're using a strain gauge. And each pull is going to be 10 seconds long at the load we're talking about. So 40% of 1 rep max roughly. And then with sometimes maybe it's probably not going to feel that tiresome. So between 20 seconds or 50 seconds in between. So each cycle could take a half a minute or a full minute. I think I'll probably do a half minute rest. So my total cycle time, including the 10 seconds of pull, is 30 seconds. Just to get it done faster, I can do it in 5 minutes for the routine instead of 10. And I'm often busy in the morning, so that would be nice to have an extra 5 minutes.
I'm going to do a 50-second rest in between each because last time between the rest positions, I actually did a side split for 10 seconds. I actually did the same thing, but with this position, and I improved my side split. So it's kind of like a fun thing to do in between. Yeah.
I love that. I will also do that actually.
Yeah.
My side splits look more like a V than a split.
Yeah. So I normally have like a box or a chair in front of me to support, and then I just go as wide as I can until I feel that stretch sensation. Not like, you know, it's the same thing that we're trying to find in the fingers, is like that light stretch. Hold it for about 10 seconds, but you're actively trying to contract against it a little bit. So instead of just like trying to stretch and push out, you're pulling in with the feet in an isometric contraction.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Now you said something on the light stretch. Can you explain that a little bit more? What it feels like on the fingers, what you recommend to your clients on the fingers there?
Yeah, it's, you know, for me, when I say like, and actually for all of my clients, I just get them to do half crimp because they don't really know how to control some of these positions. So I get them to do half crimp. And then if they feel any kind of stretch, once they feel oh yeah, like I'm feeling something, that's actually the resistance that they hold for the duration. And like I say that, and I know that people are going to go much higher intensity. So that's why I go on the lower end.
Right.
Like, oh, like as you feel that stretch, you can stop the load.
And when you're all this protocol you're describing with your clients, now it's a wall-mounted hangboard. They don't have any gauge as to what they're doing or not. This is a little bit different because we've got a strain gauge that we're using in this case, so we can actually measure it and say, okay, this is your target. Don't go above that.
Yeah.
Target.
Yeah. And I am curious to see what 40% RPE, like what that RPE feels like in my body, like in the hand. And, you know, it might actually give me better way to describe the feeling as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dylan, I guess one question, were you twice a day or once a day person?
I will do once a day. I think that would be good. for me.
In the app, can you make it a protocol for us?
Yes, I will make this protocol, put it as a pro routine. I'm going to call it the Mercedes routine. And we're
Okay.
using the tension FlashBoard, right? So we're going to use the 20 mil grip. So I'll set it up with a FlashBoard, exactly that.
Awesome. I think for folks like Dylan and I who are like recovering from injury, I think there might be more benefit there. But for someone like you, where you're already like really strong, you don't have any like upper body injuries, I'm wondering if you should increase slightly.
That's an interesting question. We
like
could
maybe 50%.
Okay, I'll go with that. I think the idea between the papers that Emil and his brother uncovered were that you don't have to have heavy loads, right? It doesn't have to be a high load system, and you get the adaptations that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with trying an experiment at low grade, and if what I walked away with is not much more strength but healthy fingers, I'm happy with that too. That's a pretty cool outcome.
Yeah. And we can always once you form this habit of daily hanging, we could also try a second month of like slightly higher, if this didn't really result in much. But I think it's gonna work. Yeah,
let's see where it goes. I'll try higher on your suggestion. I'll go with 50% because I think, if my pull is around 300 pounds or so, 150 almost feels like nothing.
Yeah,
that's pretty light.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we're not doing a study here. This is 3 people. It's 3 more people than have done it before, but it is cool. But ultimately, this platform, we hope to be able to do tests like this and recruit more people and actually get some, an actual study going, which would be super cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thanks for watching this far along. You saw some of our plans, but you'll see the description on the execution plans for myself, Dylan, and Mercedes down below in the description of this video. In short, I'm going to be doing a twice a day protocol that's a little bit more focused on strength training, whereas Dylan and Mercedes are doing a once a day protocol, a little bit more focused on injury recovery. We're going to be posting videos on this on Pitch 6 YouTube channel and our Instagram feeds once a day over the next 30 days or so. So please watch out for those, and they're going to be short, so they'll be really quick and easy to watch. It should be kind of fun. It'll be a fun adventure for us to see what kind of strength gains we get. All right, thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.